The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Jess C., Dr. Orange Pill.
Hi, everybody. The doctor is in.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Apologies about yesterday's episode. Daniel Kari couldn't make this retaping. And yesterday we had issues with the internet that have been solved by running a bright blue cable all the way through the house. Problem solved. The price of Bitcoin is up 0.88% with a last of 80,000. Of 79,690. Oh, this is the part where my microphone breaks every show. How does this happen? Every show.
With 1,241 sats just north of the 1,000 sat barrier. They were all know and love.
That's right. Everything is broken. I'll turn off.
Let's do 100 sit-ups a day to 100K. Every Bitcoiner will be walking around with the 21 pack.
All right, we're rebooting the soundboard, but okay. I still have some kind of sound, so let's keep going. Issue 1. Go ahead, Jesse. Tell us about Michael Saylor. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, gotta love Michael Saylor. Do you? I don't know. I have such a funny take on this guy. I don't even know if he knows what he's saying half the time. It's like, it's not complicated. You use a AI to create a NAV1 digital credit product that creates equity from a derivative of capital differentiated non-consecutive push-outs. I'm like, what? I don't even know if he knows what he's saying. So he's been going on for a while, but now he finally says, buy more Bitcoin than you sell. He said he would never sell. Now he says, buy more than you sell, which actually makes sense. Finally, that's the first thing he actually said that made sense to me in about 9 months. Ever since that Tucker Carlson interview, I haven't been able to understand 3 words in a row that come out of his mouth. But now he finally says something that makes sense. It's good and it's necessary. One guy, essentially one guy, at least with the ETFs, you kind of feel like there's retail. There's like a variety of people inside there collecting all these Bitcoins. But when you have one company getting close to 5% of the total supply, even back in the day, I think that's what happened with Laszlo on Bitcoin Pizza Day. Satoshi was like, dude, you got too much Bitcoin, man. You got to distribute it a little bit. On the other hand, he's only doing probably what I would do if that was 2009, 2010 again. I mean, I guess I would be collecting 5% of the network too. But, I'm glad, actually. It's a great relief because it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense how he was going to continuously either dilute the stock if MicroStrategy even is a company anymore, really, besides just holding on to Bitcoin, or just, continuously sells the stretch or the stripe or the strikes, so the idea that yes, at some point he might have to actually sell some of it to pay off some of these, or even to buy out the equity of these products is normal. It makes sense, and I'm glad that they're saying it. And so we'll see what happens next. But it doesn't mean he's actually selling. He just said they might at some point this year, next year, or in 5 years.
Well, and remember, here at the Bitcoin Group, unlike the rest of the media, we have a long memory. And we remember that Michael Saylor has already sold. They sold for tax reasons. They did that taxed harvesting thing where they sell a bunch and then they wait and then they buy it back at a loss or something like that. So they'd already opened themselves to the idea. But now, as the articles say, Michael Saylor is warning everyone. And this has basically freaked out the media. As it says here, billionaire Michael Saylor said he would never sell Bitcoin. After 3 straight quarterly losses, he's changing his mind. Michael Saylor backtracks from sell a kidney stance to selling Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's biggest buyer just said he might sell. Should you? And I think that's the frame that the media is going with here. They're like, this guy, he likes Bitcoin so much, he buys a bunch of it, he gets way into it, he makes all these speeches, goes around, tells everybody. And I remember last year at the Bitcoin conference, He told everyone in the audience to basically that you were a moron if you didn't drop everything, go to Montana, start a company, put all of your Bitcoin in, get all your friends and family, anyone else you can get in to buy it, buy shares in it, sell the shares, get the money from the shares, buy more Bitcoin, and that we should all be creating Michael Saylor type vehicles, and that we are just a bunch of suckers because we're holding on to our little bit of coin, or we're trying to build up sats, working a job, or whatever people are doing these days, and that Michael Saylor, who has mansions and yachts and all these things to fall back on and understands this complicated business structure so much better than us idiots in the audience, we're a bunch of suckers. And as it says here, he went even as far to say you should sell a kidney to get more Bitcoin. You should mortgage your future. You should sell your house, sell your property, sell everything you have, get more Bitcoin. And now he's backtracking. So this doesn't surprise me. And thanks to the power of AI, I can tell you that we predicted it here on the Bitcoin group. Let's see what the AI report says. It says Michael Saylor said the words. He showed up in 2020, swore on a stack of Bibles he'd never sell. And today he said the words, sometimes you have to. And if we go down, we can look at the discussions on the Bitcoin group here. Back in 2021, on July 30th, Thomas Hunt said, we've talked about Saylor before. We always knew this was coming. There'd be a point where the board came to him with pitchforks and said, what are you doing with our money? I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're starting to see the signs. We also talked, as we talked earlier, about the tax harvesting. Jesse was also there in 2024 on December 28th, and he said, if MicroStrategy has some kind of liquidity issue, if some companies start selling with weak hands, if it tanks again, they'll probably jump all on board and sell it all and create some volatility event. As the computer says, 18 weeks before today's news, Jesse mapped the exact mechanism. A liquidity issue at MicroStrategy triggers a volatility event. Jesse, what do you think about the computer's incredible report, the history of the Bitcoin group, being so right about Michael Saylor? And the whole time, this is in the face of hodlers who basically disliked us for being right about Saylor. They had this kind of gospel. Once again, Bitcoin finds a hero. They say, oh, he's infallible. He's 100% hodl. Everyone else is stupid. You should be selling your everything and selling shares in your Bitcoin and so forth, or you're a big dummy. And now he's middling back out, right? I mean, he's come around now. I know no one read it, and I can't even find it in the Google archive, but I was interviewed once, and they asked me, and I said, hodl plus profits. If selling 10% will change your life, you should sell 10%. And I didn't invent this, certainly not. But this reasonable, measured strategy, even MicroStrategy, there were points, we've covered this story, and the same for El Salvador, another long time, forever hodler, which again, sounds so amazing. But if it's a simple strategy, it's probably too simple, right? I mean, Sun Tzu, so. But
well,
yeah,
now two things. One, why you need the Bitcoin group. It is the hardest talk, and it is the toughest Bitcoins out there. Like, we know. And the thing is, like, Bitcoin is supposed to be money. That's what it's for. Like, the idea is that you own Bitcoin so that someday in the future you can have a better life for yourself. And holding it forever, to me, it is very pet rockish. Like, it's like I mean, even art or baseball cards or Garbage Pail Kids or whatever you happen, it's a collector's item. You can think of it as real estate if that's however you want to think about it. Land on sometimes they just call it the world's most expensive Excel spreadsheet. It's just like you have your tile on there. It says how much Bitcoin you have. But at some point, if you want to do something with your life or have a good time or take a year off and go on sabbatical, you need to be able to do something with it. So. And also, selling helps distribute it to a wider number of people too. So there's a whole lot of reasons why it doesn't make sense to just hold it for and I heard a lot of people say this stuff about, like, you would borrow against it, but even then you have to pay back what you borrow. And then, since you're just making a bet that the price goes up over before it's due, which is usually a year. so that you're not getting like very favorable terms, and they, at least now, you get a very high APY. So it just makes logical sense. I've never totally understood the hold forever strategy or that sensibility, because it's supposed to be money, and money is supposed to be liquid, and it's supposed to be changeable, and it's supposed to be an instrument to get the things you actually want. That's all money is. It's a thing that you hold to get the thing you really want, which is either time or a house or whatever, vacation or whatever it happens to be. Your kids, paying for your kids' college, whatever it happens to be. So yeah, but again, I'm shocked that you have that quote from me, and I'm grateful. That was pretty cool. So thanks, Thomas.
It's pretty sweet. Thank the AI. And with Saylor, we've had this discussion here with him in absentia over and over again, where we say Bitcoin is a money and a digital gold. Maybe it's a digital gold because it's a money. Like, it's a circular thing where it needs development. It needs the Lightning Network. It needs new technologies. Otherwise, it doesn't stay a money. It doesn't stay a currency. The third wheel of the stool, like the third leg, falls out. And the whole time, Michael Saylor bot has said, it's 100% digital gold. You should hold it, and you're stupid if you do anything else. And this has always been hurtful, I think, to a lot of old Bitcoiners who spent Bitcoin like money and didn't know that one Bitcoin would be 80,000 or whatever it is today. A lot of people bought those socks. We're talking about maybe 50 Bitcoins for socks, 100 Bitcoins for socks. Like, if they didn't make these transactions, we don't get here, right? And that's what I think Saylor and the digital gold party cuts off. They're always like, it's always been a digital gold. Anyone that spent it was a weird outlier, dumb fuck. No, like, these people that spent the money made the network, made the conventions, they made the sales booth, they taught the person to use it, they taught the person in the cab, they spread the word about this thing, which is a better money and a digital gold because it's a better money. Like, it links together. And I think he tried to have the cart without the horse. And now he's had to, been more simple or less simple in his strategy. He's gonna have to be like, oh, MicroStrategy sells sometimes and all these things, which again, they, to go back and be just a little fair to David Bailey, they crucified the Nakamoto company when they said, we're going to buy and sell at key times. And they described some kind of algorithmic process or some triangles that they're going to pull up and they're going to figure it out. And everyone, oh no, it's a treasury vehicle that buys and sells. It's not just 100% like Michael Saylor's vehicle. And now the great Saylor has fallen. So
Yeah, it's another thing too. In a sense, it's in a funny way, a little bit of a maturity thing too. Early on, at least for me, and maybe for you, Thomas, this idea of like, if everybody on earth bought $100 worth or bought $10 worth every single day without fail, like the price would skyrocket, and would probably go up forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is that basic idea, because it's a scarce asset, that if everybody got on board, if there was a 1,000 treasury companies and they're all kind of doing a stretch or something, there's that. I mean, there is that. But at the same time, for it to be a monetary network and for it to be actual money, like, you have to still use it for something, not just game it. If that's gaming it, in a way it is. I mean, that's sort of the game theory side of it. So I don't know. We've all had the thought. We've all imagined what would happen if that happened. All the stuff Saylor was saying like a year ago, like sell your kidney, etc. But get equity on your house and buy Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff. Everyone's had that thought. But the reality is, markets are still markets. There's still unknown players out there that you don't know what they're going to do exactly. You don't know what the price is going to be one day to the next, and even sometimes 1 year to the next. So it's the long-term thing. You got to think 5 years out, just in a very sort of Warren Buffett-y kind of way. I know this is not value investing by any stretch of the imagination, but you do, if you understand it well enough, you do comprehend that the number go up, basically number go up technology. You get the supply tightens, and there's a network effect where more people are getting on board all the time. So I get where he's coming from, but I'm glad to see him like sort of taking and the CEO and the other people in his company starting to make more rational statements that sound like what could actually happen and what they will actually have to do to pay off all of these dividends every month.
Well, and again, there's a real value to knowing your history. I mean, it's been, like you say, 5, 10 years, almost 20 years since 2008. And what was 2008 about? Well, they took the bad mortgages and they put them in boxes and they labeled them as good mortgages. So, or even, great mortgages. What that really is about whether you can see what something really is. And that's why, again, I think they're breaking one of the commandments of Satoshi, which is, thou shalt not rehypothecate. When something like MicroStrategy or Coinbase or one of these other companies takes Bitcoin and says we have X number of Bitcoin, unless they prove it, we can't tell. And this is going to keep happening. And now we don't know how many Bitcoin there are. And some of the things you're talking about, why should Bitcoin go up? Why should people be buying that $100 a week, $100 a month? That assumes, sadly, and I don't think we're there, we might go back to there, there's only 21 million Bitcoin. Right now, if we even just assume 21 million real Bitcoin, 21 million paper Bitcoin, unless people are withdrawing it from the exchange and putting it on their wallet, unless MicroStrategy is holding it in their wallet, unless they're, and it's hard because they want to take it out there like the banks. The banks make all their money by holding money in savings account and then loaning it out again to other people. They loan it out 12 times maybe for every savings account, 100 times for every savings account. So if you were MicroStrategy and you could take your, I don't know how many billion or whatever they have, take that out for a walk and loan it and get a percentage on it and so on and so forth. Certainly you're risking the people's assets, but if you could do that, you could make tons of money. And that's what it's about, right? So that's why there's so many paper Bitcoin. All the signs, all the Satoshi warnings, all the biblical, taking the money changers out of the temple, all of that work falls apart if there's a ton of paper Bitcoin, because the market never reacts the way it should if the people are out there buying their $100 a week. So,
one of the things that confuses me, I know you probably want to move to another topic soon, but I don't totally understand. Maybe Thomas, you could explain this to me and the viewers if you know. Because when he makes those announcements about like I bought, whatever, 1,000 or 30,000 Bitcoin this week, in that announcement, there's always something about the APY that the Bitcoin made. Is he using that to buy treasuries basically as capital to get a loan to buy treasuries and he's getting interest on that? Like, how's that happening?
well, it's complicated because he's had a couple of different instruments, and I'd say he's very high level. So at first, he was just kind of printing up stocks, and people were so on fire about his company that they were buying them up, and they would take the money from the stocks and put it in the Bitcoin. Later on, I think he had to do more percentage deals where maybe he was getting like a big loan, and then he was going to take 70% of the big loan and put it into Bitcoin, and you could buy a stock in this new company that's a big loan on Bitcoin. And then he was doing vehicles where he would return a percentage to you. So he would say, okay, you give me all your money. I'm going to go buy Bitcoin. I'm going to ride the ride. So if Bitcoin goes up 30%, like I win. If Bitcoin's up 5%, we pay you 5% every month. So it's a dividend vehicle for Bitcoin. And what had started to happen on a larger scale, just looking at it, is there's less and less free money for Michael Saylor. Initially, he was getting lots of free money, then less and less and less. Then at some point, he went to the open market and he's like, hey, normal retail people, buy my stock vehicle, give me money, I'll buy Bitcoin. So it is very complicated with the percentages and whether he's up and down and which vehicle he's using. But in general, and it's beautiful, and it's market. It's like capitalism. It's this beautiful example of like what capitalism is. Like it's like water, like the way that water runs across the landscape. There was this hole in capitalism where if you were a big enough, bank guy, startup guy, whatever Michael Saylor was before, you could roll into these banks, borrow a bunch of money, use it to buy Bitcoin, actually buy the Bitcoin, then you have power if Bitcoin goes up, so on and so forth. If you ride a couple of these cycles and you're the right guy, you could create this giant honeypot of money. And that's what Michael Saylor has done. And for a while, and this seems like the true with all the media people, they always build people up and burn them down. they were celebrating him. They were like, he's found the infinite money glitch, and he's the smartest man in capitalism. And we went through like 2 cycles of this with El Salvador, with the same thing, MicroStrategy, both of them having these giant bets on Bitcoin and celebrating when they're up, lamenting when they're down, celebrating when they're up again, lamenting when they're down. And now we're seeing actual cracks in the armor where Michael Saylor is having to take on this responsibility and say, okay, I'll sell a little bit with Bukele, the dictator in Venezuela, or not, it's not Venezuela, sorry, El Salvador. Oh, yeah. Hardly a difference. But in El Salvador, he doesn't have to wedge on this. He doesn't have a board of directors. I don't think he has anybody questioning his authority. He controls the military. So I think he can go 100%. But really, this Saylor hedging is natural. It's acceptable. We're being, we're roasting him, but we're roasting him with, we knew this would happen. He knew this would happen. But at the same time, this biblicalness, this all or nothingness, and I suppose it has to do with communication. It's a lot simpler to say, I am the king of hodl. I am here to hodl forever. And we've got quotes here again, but thanks to the AI, shout out AI. MicroStrategy will hold the Bitcoin for 100 years, calling it the world's best collateral. So, and Martine, who's a hardcore Bitcoiner back on the day in the show, said, I'm a big fan, and I keep my Bitcoin for 100 years too. I advise everybody to just keep holding. And, it's part funny, it's part true. But 100 years for a person does nothing because you're dead. 100 years for a company, that's not bad strategy.
The other thing too is when they call it collateral, the subtext is rehypothecation. If it's collateral, then you're using it to borrow money against it or something. So you're turning it into the other financial system in that sense. So, that was another thing that was always kind of like in the back of my mind, like what is the real, like how is this really going to actually work in the long term? Now it makes sense. You have to sell a little bit at some point, but like the article, the original article you sent did say, and it's like, he only has to go up, like, even if it only went up like 3% a year, it would still make, even if he sold enough to pay off all the dividends, it would still be more, he would still have more money, at least in dollar values. So it's not even like it's not like he's going to sell all of it or needs to on any level. And also, from what I understand, he's got like several billions. He can still pay out dividends for another year, more or less, or 8 months before he even has to think about it. And who knows what the market will be at that point, and they'll figure it out at that point. I think Marathon had to sell a bunch of Bitcoin after it sort of tanked. I think they sold it lower than 70 or close to 70 a few months ago. So, that every company, they at some point they have to go through is just like we do. But the kind of interesting thing to me was, at least it was a relief for me, is that like everybody's as idiotic in a sense as I am. Like I had no, even though I've seen the 4-year cycle 4 times, and everything in my bones was telling me sell some of this shit right now just to have a little, because I'm what they call cash poor. So it's like, I was like, just get yourself a little cushion, dude. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't push the button. So, I sold a teeny little bit, but like, not enough to even cushion me for a year. So it's like, now I'm like where Marathon is going, oh shit, oh, excuse me. I'm sorry for getting here on YouTube. I got to watch what I'm saying sometimes.
No,
anyway,
I think you're right. I think everybody's in this, and everybody did the same thing. Nobody sold at the top. Everybody thought there'd be one more push and they could get more money in that. And so then, it's great to see that even like, the great man like Michael Saylor also has to sell not at the top. Like if he's making liquid moves at 80 and we were at 120, he's not a super genius. No one is. Nobody can time this market or any market perfectly. But it is good to take some profits at the top if you feel that it's up too much. Like Dan would say, if you look at the chart and you wouldn't ski down it, then maybe it's time to take some profits. And even going back to the
that's a great analogy. I love that.
Oh yeah. It's visual and you could feel it because it was sharp for a while there. And we have it here. It says in 2022 on August 5th, Dan Eves said his Saylor bar was 3K. He said 3K would wipe out MicroStrategy. And I swear Bitcoin, I don't have to look, I think it was around 6 and it went down to 3. and everyone freaked out, and everyone was freaking out, and he could have had to sell, but he held on, and all of that. But for him to take a more reasonable stance, I mean, it kind of breaks his whole public persona, though. The whole and the whole blind Saylor following, maybe they'll show up in the chat or in the comments. And they'll be like, "Oh, stop making fun of our leader. He made all this money for us. We bought his stock." Da, 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 da. So I guess it was fine. Everyone made lots of money, but you can only say, "I'm going to hodl forever for a certain amount of time," and then the crisis comes, like you're saying, Jess. If it's for a personal home account, if you're a big company, if you're going to hold for 100 years or 1,000-year Reich, whatever it is, eventually the bill comes due. But we're going to move on to the exit question, predicting the price of Bitcoin. Jesse, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
As more clarity comes in, I have a feeling we're going to clearly see a little bit of a spike coming in until they either sign that thing or it falls apart, and then we'll see what happens next. So I'm saying up for probably a month, more or less.
That's right. We've got the Clarity Act. Coinbase has completely capitulated. Who cares about the stablecoin interests? Let the peasants keep their savings accounts. But everyone on the other side saying, oh, it's regulation for Bitcoin, regulation for crypto. And this means all of the big money can come rushing in. And that's what it's really about. So I'm going to stay with bullish. I'm always predicting bullish. But what will you say, Ball? Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? I had a whole thing. It was working really good. I was like, boom. Now, nothing. Let's see. Cannot predict now. All of that for a cannot predict now. So great job.
That's the most honest thing that Ball's probably said in a while.
It's a fair back out by the 8 Ball.
Yeah.
Just does not predict. Moving on to issue 2. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the United States is targeting Iran's access to crypto. Placing crypto alongside shadow banking and weapons procurement means Treasury believes it is being used for actual trade settlement. We talked about Iran and Bitcoin recently with the Strait of Hormuz, perhaps accepting Bitcoin as a toll. Then President Trump saying they would attack any ship that paid the toll. And all of us saying, oh no, they're going to look in your blockchain history and they're going to see that you sent the money for the thing. Followed by the inevitable but unfortunate story about the hackers targeting the ships, even tricking one of the ships to sending the toll money to the hackers. They did not provide access through the Hormuz Strait, and the ship was later attacked. It was the worst, unluckiest captain ever. Got attacked, paid a fake toll, everything. But now it's back again. Jesse, we talk about money laundering a lot. What do you think about the possibility that Iran is actually using crypto for trade and settlement, leading to the Treasury Department's crackdown?
That's why they have to quit putting Bitcoin ATMs on the ships. I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about
Makes
that later.
It too easy. Too easy.
I didn't know that story. That was a wild story. I would be so. On the one hand, I'm very curious. I'm very curious how much people are actually paying Bitcoin or crypto for to cross it, if it's happening in any kind of real way. The Treasury Secretary, having an interest in Iran doing that. This is not really new for America. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories about why we went into Libya and that kind of thing, because at some point, maybe they were trying to get off the petrodollar kind of system a little bit, or at least ease themselves back from it. So, yeah, it's a very normal thing for America to do, whether it's right or wrong. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily like a crypto thing or a Bitcoin thing. It's just what we would do in a war type situation with any kind of money that they're getting their hands on. I'm sure they're doing the same thing with banks if they can, and any other way that Iran's acquiring wealth at this moment in time. I don't know. I don't exactly totally know why we're in Iran, why it all happened. But I'm sure it had nothing to do with an island or anything like that. But whatever. People put out a new one today, a new picture about because the Air Force or somebody just put out a bunch of like new stuff on aliens. So any little distraction, I guess, is just gonna work for our nation right now. But you know, that's sort of where I am on that. I just say that it's interesting that, it's a good thing in the long, basically that Bitcoin and crypto are part of really mainstream conversations. I think that's the biggest takeaway. Bitcoin is now more or less mainstream, at least in that for like plebs like us, and then for like high thinking like finance kind of people. Crypto, it's the new internet. It exists. It's out of the bottle. We have the internet of information. Now we have the internet of value, or you could call it the monetary superhighway. Like, it's here, and people recognize it now. And it's still a little bit like, I still like to say, dial-up modem face. We're still kind of working through some of the kinks, but it's here. It's happening. And if this clarity thing gets passed this year, even if it doesn't, the march it's gonna keep marching forward. And this is all just part of the process. And it'll start making more sense and be very normal. It probably won't even be a newsworthy in a couple of years, because it'll be so just normal. It'd be like saying they're looking into their emails. It'd be like, yeah, of course they're looking in their emails. So,
Well, and that's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to celebrate Bitcoin, that you're all grown up, that you're all grown up, that you're a big Bitcoin now. And that, again, this is, people are doing horrible things with you. You're being used to evade international sanctions, or drug running, or gangsters, or whatever it is. But like Jesse said, you're in the conversation in the email, you're in the conversation with weapons and money and banks. You're a big boy now, Bitcoin. Like, you're a big boy. And we talk about the sanctions thing all the time. We talk about the artificial boundary that was created in the United States when they created the idea of money laundering, which was created to stop the drug cartels. They had to say, what are the drug cartels doing while they're moving all this money around? Well, make that illegal. In the same way, what is Iran doing? They're moving all this money around. They're buying, whatever with it. Make that illegal. Make that, international law. So a different level of illegal. Again, we have another incredible report here from the AI. The AI, as I've said, says that the Bitcoin group has been talking about getting around sanctions, even Iran's dollar exposure, as early as 2018. We have quotes here. We've talked about getting around sanctions in Cuba, Venezuela, Belarus, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, Gaza, Iran, Myanmar, Russia, North Korea, all the usual suspects. And now they're all using it. As you can see, we predict it, then it happens. Everyone's going to use Bitcoin for this because it has value, not because we want this. Like, we don't have guys out there saying, hey, questionable country, come use our coin, use it to evade righteous sanctions from the international community. No, we're not saying that. It's because it's valuable. And again, this goes back to, why is Michael Saylor into it? Why is Andreas Antonopoulos into it? Because it has value, because it has digital value. Like, when I came to Bitcoin, I said, what is it? Well, can I make a copy of it? Everything on my computer, I make a copy of it. I want SimCity, I make a copy of it. No, you can't make a copy of Bitcoin. It takes a while. They explain it to me. I read a bunch of things. I watch Andreas videos, so on and so forth. Everyone's going to come to this. People all over the world, people in North Korea, people in Iran, are watching their version of Andreas videos, or maybe subtitled ones. And they're like, holy crap, our country could use this. So it's not a surprise. It's not a good thing. We're certainly in favor of paying, following sanctions and paying, following international law and whatever. But at the same time, great job, Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's here. This is it. This is their iPhone moment. Oh well, you're there. Welcome to the club. You're in the conversation with Dallas, like real legit conversation. So yeah.
And I think we've predicted all the countries. So I don't think we're going to do a country list. But yes, every country is going to use Bitcoin to evade sanctions, or a stable coin, or another cryptocurrency. And we're not encouraging this, but we're saying, yeah, it's going to happen. It's happening anyway. Moving on, check out World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 4,906 videos, including lots of shorts and last week's show, all at worldcryptonetwork.com. Moving on to issue 3, Western Union launches USDPT stablecoin on Solana via Anchorage Digital. It almost reads like a press release. Remittance giant Western Union's USDPT, say that 5 times fast, token will power cross-border payments and a consumer spending product launching in 40 plus countries. Thomas Hunt, what do you think? I'll go first. Well, we've been, just like everything else on this show, we've been talking about Western Union since the beginning of time. I'll show the AI card after Jess talks, but basically they had to do this. They're smart to do this. I wish they were using Bitcoin and Lightning Network, but like everyone else, I understand why they're using stable coins. These banks, everybody's using stable coins. We're in yet another period of Bitcoin blindness. The first blindness was it's an ICO. I'll buy stock and shares and things instead of buying the coin. The next blindness was it's a blockchain. IBM is running diamonds on the blockchain instead of just buying shares in the Bitcoin and the money thing. And this new blindness is stablecoin. I'm going to get a stablecoin instead of getting a piece of the world's money of the future, which eventually will be stable if everyone in the world uses it. When everyone's using it, Bitcoin's going to be like the dollar. It goes up like $1. It goes in 10 cents. You know, the dollar up 3 cents today, down 3 cents. Bitcoin will be the same when everyone uses it. But now they're like, oh, let's just use stables now. But again, good for Western Union, good plan. I don't know about Solana or any of the technical details. But as far as using stablecoin instead of using however they send money in the old way, they write it down in a ledger in cursive or whatever. They need to move on from that and get with the future. Go ahead, Jess. What do you think about Western Union?
So it's okay. So it's definitely smart on their, or it's a good step forward for them and for the ecosystem as a whole. In a sense, in a way, this is almost like a blockbuster type moment for Western Union because they're not understand. What's really happening is that now you can send money basically like a text, like an email. So Western Union, they're taking 25% from everybody who uses it. And as soon as everybody wakes up and realizes it's, at some point they don't need Western Union at all, it won't matter that they're probably going to save themselves a lot of money by doing this and save themselves a lot of time and a lot of effort, but they're not. I would be surprised if they pass it to the person actually to the end user. This is probably just a way, at least temporarily, to make great profits. So it's good for them. As far as using Solana and using a whatever you want to call it, a decentralized supercomputer, basically, whatever these other blockchains are supposed to be. I actually think I'm not a maximalist, but I'm more of like I don't know how to call it. It just seems like there's definitely a use case for a decentralized supercomputer that can move money, whether it ends up being Solana or any of these other ones today, whether it ends up being just sort of, I think there's a argument for smart contracts out there to me. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know what's going to be the winner. I don't know what's going to happen with it. But being that Bitcoin is, you would say, deaf, dumb, and blind, whatever. It's money. Bitcoin is the money, and having some programmability to your money, there is a use case to me in that. So this is all a step in the correct direction as far as like the entire ecosystem, and that's sort of the bottom line of that one. Eventually, I think this is almost like AOL used. AOL used to charge like $9.99 a month to use email, and then slowly, like, I think Yahoo was the first one that did Hotmail that was free, and then nobody ever used AOL, and then eventually AOL just did it for free. So at some point, Western Union might have to just charge a penny for each person if you use Western Union. They're going to have to compete at some point with the new paradigm. So that's really what I'm looking forward to, or just going the way of Blockbuster because we don't need you anymore. So bye bye, bye bye. A little bit early. That's my take on that one.
It does seem like they're offering a discounted version of their product. You could use the questionable stablecoin thing if you want, or you could use our trusted dual ledger database thing where we write it in cursive. But that'll cost you a little bit more. I agree, Jess. They're not going down to zero, which is what we want. We want remittances to be free, and they're not going to use Western Union as a place where you could go and learn about Bitcoin because that's a disaster for them, right? That's 1,000 shops where you're going in, you're learning how not to use Western Union. how you can send money from home. You can pay your bills from home. You don't have to go to this office, wait in a line, waste your time, physically present your money so that they can send it digitally. That's not necessary. So they're a middleman that's trying to hold on again. It's almost like when Netflix offered to merge with Blockbuster. They said, hey, you can use your stores. They could return Netflix movies at the store. We could integrate these two products. And we never got to see what that looked like because Blockbuster laughed them out of the place. They said, get the heck out of here, Netflix.
I'm glad man. I hated Blockbuster back in the day, man. When they took over all the video stores, it was horrible. They raised their prices because there's no competition anymore. They eradicated competition, and then so they raised their prices. They would email you and call you constantly and harass. They were overcharging for turning in late, or if someone lost a video. One time, I think I lost a video, or somebody in my family did in the early days, and they wanted me to pay like $125, which this is like in the 90s. $125 was a significant amount of money back then. So,
well, they valued the movies at that price. Everyone else, you could buy them for $20.
Yeah, exactly.
Their movies were $100 because they got them from whatever dealer or whatever, and that was now your fault, your problem, because you had rented the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a tough customer. It was a tough customer service company, and it would have been. They could have survived though if they moved with Netflix. They could have just merged and then gotten less stores. And now we're seeing possibly a similar recreation with GameStop trying to buy eBay, which sounds ridiculous on its face, even just the monetary things. I see a little bit of integration. If you could bring, it's an old idea, but if you took all those GameStop stores where the guys are doing nothing and had people come in and say, I want to sell my thing on eBay, and they packed it up and put it in a system, and then they stored it in a vault like Amazon sales does with their thing, that could kind of work. I mean, there could be some integrations there for a real world. What if eBay suddenly had a location in every city? That's kind of some integration. But again, GameStop is stupid. So they're never going to do anything like that. They're never going to do anything smart. They could have put a Bitcoin kiosk in every one of their locations and had their employees train people about how to use Bitcoin. It doesn't affect their GameStop business. The physical video game business is already over. You're essentially a pawn shop or an antique store selling physical video games. They could have done the Bitcoin thing. They only do it publicly. And then now they risk becoming one of these stories where GameStop had a big roll of Bitcoin and then they spent it all to buy eBay. And eBay is an empty box. No one uses eBay anymore. It's all Chinese resellers and garbage, essentially. I mean, there's a little bit of the old garage sale and or a very little garage sale and a little bit of like Antiques Roadshow. There's always that. You can get what you want there, but which is cool. I love it.
And there's other things out there like Facebook Marketplace, or there's other things that people like to use that are like slightly more convenient sometimes. So, and
especially for local things, yeah, Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist before that.
Yeah.
And then eBay is just full of, so much spam, so much relisting, resellers, fake items, stitched jerseys from other countries and other things like that. It's almost like a Chinese marketplace. Like it's really gone to the lowest level. And maybe it's right. Maybe GameStop should buy them. They're partners.
Same thing happened with Kodak. I don't know if you remember that they had an opportunity in the early days. I don't know if it was Canon, one of these companies when they first started doing digital, but Kodak was the film processing company. I mean, so, and they died. They went the way of Blockbuster. It's a classic thing. It's blindness. Western Union's been around for 100 years, maybe longer. To totally like completely rethink your business model, which is still currently working, by the way. I mean, the digital money revolution is, the beat is on, but it's not, we're not there yet. So people are still using Western Union, and there's Western Unions here in the city. I live in New York. They're still, and there are people in line, stand in line. People that still cash their checks because they don't have bank accounts. They still cash their checks at Western Union, and they pay a big fee on that too.
It's a big remittance pipeline, right? There are Western Unions in other countries. You can send it to your family in the other country. Yeah. And this is why it could be cool if they were into Bitcoin. And if we could teach them about Bitcoin through the decline of this 200-year-old company. But again, I think they're just going to hang on. And now they're getting close to Bitcoin, but not using it, and they'll all like write this in the books. They'll be like, it was a near miss for Western Union as they launched their Solana partnership, which lasted 3 to 5 years and, never really did anything. Meanwhile, Bitcoin and like you're saying as well, the idea of offering Bitcoin accounts to people. Again, we're not saying people should not hold their own coins. You should. But if you're brand new to it and you don't have a savings account and you're unbanked and you've been using Western Union, you could save your change in a Bitcoin account for you. And they could do that, but they're not going to. They'll give you a stable coin. They'll give you Solana, but they won't let you in the big game. And people could be really happy with that. They could be like, I made my fortune at Western Union, or I got some extra money at Western Union because they helped me with the Bitcoin thing. But instead, it's going to be this stable coin, which is going to produce a stable outcome. Like, it's not exciting.
We do have the apps like the cash apps, the strikes. So it's starting to partition the remittance field. Is starting to partition a little bit, starting to get some capitalism, some competition appropriately. And so, the beat is on. We march forward, and we'll see how it looks in another 5 years, 10 years. It'll be a whole new world probably.
And again, we've been discussing this for at least 5 years or 10 years. As the AI says, on the 5th episode of the Bitcoin Group, Andreas Antonopoulos named Western Union as the first legacy domino remittance that Bitcoin would knock over. So we've been predicting the death of Western Union. We're not there yet. Paul Pui from Airbits was on in 2016, and he called the pivot. He said that that Western Union had invested in the digital currency group and that they would absorb the new tech. They would be a remittance pivot. Everyone else was saying this as well. Jimmy Song said, for me, stable coins are kind of like Western Union 2.0, something like that. A lot of people like it for that reason. That was back in 2025 in December. Thomas Hunt said, there's still hope for you, Western Union. Most of your stores could probably be replaced with a series of Bitcoin ATMs with better instructions and manuals. If Western Union, MoneyGram, any of the competitors take this idea, convert to Bitcoin now, and will adopt the new language, a Lightning Network solution, they could send payments for cheap. That was back in 2021. And as you can see, there's just more and more quotes that the World Crypto Network has been talking about Western Union and questioning whether it will live to see its 200th birthday in 2051. The company was founded in 1851. We warned the company in 2013. We said, if it does not adapt to modern times, dramatically reduce fees, and shift to Bitcoin, if the dinosaurs do not evolve, they will be turned into fossil fuel. I think that's
Bitcoin
quite
is the boulder. It is the giant meteorite that's going to wash away the last vestige of an old system. And it's here. Genie's out of the bottle. But it's going to take it takes time. It takes time, and we're living through it. So it's a very fun, interesting, and unique time, and we're fortunate to be in the. I looked it up because I was thinking to myself, how many people I wonder actually own one whole Bitcoin? According to AI, it's like less than 1 million probably. They're saying like maybe 1 million or less in the whole world. I mean, it's crazy. Because it's hard to. We're still so early, and we're just watching it all go down in real time. And so for all of us watching the show and who are in the space, you just have to sit back and be really patient because it takes time. It takes time. It's not like a mass extinction event like the meteorite. I guess it's more like an ice age. It's happening, and people are going to have to move, basically. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like Rockefeller said, how did you go broke? At first, slowly, and then all at once. So let's move on. We've got a couple more issues here in Grab Bag. The Samourai wallet founder writes from prison asking the Bitcoin community for help. The family is out of options. It doesn't look good for a pardon from Donald Trump for the Samourai Bitcoin wallet founder who's in jail for writing code, although they did kind of make some spreadsheets and some PowerPoint presentations where they said that code could be used for crime. So that was a mistake. But they are in jail. It is real. It is very unfortunate. There's not much that can be done about this. I don't think Trump's going to pardon him. The Ross Ulbricht thing was kind of a bizarre thing. We don't know why that happened still. Just a community came together. They felt they had to repay the community. They gave it back. The Justin Sun or the CZ from Binance pardons, those make a lot more sense. If you have a lot of money, you get a pardon. I don't think the Samourai developers have a lot of money. Jesse, quickly, what do you think about the Samourai developers? I think they're going to, serve out their jail term. I think
they did the wrong thing by not buying Trump coin when they should have. They could still buy Trump coin and they might have a chance at a pardon, but that's it. I mean, if there's a pay to play system, it's alive and well in today's America. So unless they have some kind, unless Ross wants to use some of that, Pirates Bay kind of Bitcoin that he, and buy some Trump coin on behalf of Samourai, the guy's going to be doing his judo in a jail cell for a while. It's sad. It's sad. It's like in the financial crisis. I'm sure some people know this. In 2008, the one person went to jail, and that was someone who had taken some code that they wrote from I don't know, JP Morgan or something. I don't. So putting people that write code into jail and leaving them there for a long time is not new to America. It's sad. It's just there's nothing that you can do about it. I feel bad for them and their family. I don't totally know quite enough. It was a mixing service. So it was just a thing that existed. Should it have existed? That's a philosophical debate, whether he should have done it because the legalities and what the risk he was personally taking. You know what I mean? There's sometimes consequences, even if you think you're doing the right thing, even if you are in fact doing the right thing. There was a guy that got arrested for putting a little windmill on the top of his house just to offset the electricity charge of his own house. He went to jail. This is, so there's all kinds of shit that happens, stuff that happens in America, and it's sad. And I feel bad for the guy. He should buy some Trump coin. Maybe he'll get a pardon. Or just start tweeting about the genius president, how that could probably get him somewhere too.
It's never too late, but it's pretty bad if your only hopes are that the dread pirate Roberts will bribe the corrupt president to get you out of jail. And those are your options.
You just want to say, as you wish.
I think you're right. I think he's doing judo in jail, and it's not a good look for our country. But I don't know, it's such a hard case. They kind of advertise the money laundering aspects. Moving on, we've got a couple more short issues. Bitcoin price crashes to near zero on Revolut, blamed on a third-party service disruption. Bitcoin briefly plummeted to about 2 cents a coin on Revolut due to what the financial platform described as a third-party service disruption. I don't know. This is just more of those stories where you say Bitcoin's not ready for prime time. We don't have real exchanges. If you try to use Coinbase during a market event, it's not available. If you make money on Coinbase, they actually shut down your account and threaten you. As I've read over and over again in all these reports, people get a nasty letter and they're like, well, I guess that's it for Coinbase. It's not a serious industry. The Revolut thing, I don't think, the article is supposed to put the idea in your head that you could have bought 2 cents Bitcoin if you had a order on Revolut, some random marketplace we've never heard of, and your order was really low, and you're like, I'll buy all the Bitcoin for $1, like Andreas used to say, I'll backstop it at $1. You could have bought them at 2 cents. You couldn't have. It's impossible. This is your mind lying too. It's another one of these articles. The idea of having 2 cent Bitcoin is so tantalizing. It makes the article worth it. But this was a glitch that very few people probably took advantage of. And if they did, they might even reverse those transactions because it's clearly a bank error, and they probably have language in their contract saying they can do that. Jesse, what do you think? Did you get any of those 2 cent Bitcoin on this random platform we've never heard of before now?
5 cents for me, actually. I was trying to.
Still good.
Actually, I did it for $1 I was trying to beat Andreas.
Again, you have to out. If Andreas is at $1, you need to be at like $1 and a penny. to
Yeah.
backstop the Bitcoin.
Yeah. It's
21
like being
million.
on The Price is
Tap it
Right.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little glitch that happened on some small exchange. It's clickbait. It's kind of interesting to look at. The as far as like the maturity of the market as a whole, it's getting there. Sort of. It's in a way that's the theme of the whole show. Like we're getting there. We're getting like almost every article in a way is telling us that we're getting into a better place as an entire ecosystem. So I do kind of remember Revolut. I mean, I definitely remember the name. It was like it was supposed to be like an online bank, one of the early sort of Bitcoin online banks. I don't know how it works. I never used it. I don't know if it's legal in New York.
I
Probably
think
doesn't have
it's like a EU version of Cash App. Like you
Okay.
could have a little bank version of your thing there. So, and again, you write us in the comments. Let us know what you got for your Bitcoin. Oh, 7 cents. Oh, I got 9 cents. I don't think there'll be any of you, but just like strangely, we don't know anyone affected by FTX, but there's millions of them. But we got a couple more stories, not too much. Bitcoin price surge incoming. Tom Lee says crypto spring is here amid 2027 biggest rally ever prediction. I'm tired of this guy. He's another one like Michael Saylor. He's got a big company. He's been buying Ethereum. For him, it doesn't matter if things go down. He just keeps buying because he's got a big company and he's got this all set up. He's made these predictions before. We kept going down. I think now that we're in an uptrend, it's really easy to say Bitcoin is going up, Ethereum is going up, not financial advice, blah, blah, blah. But he keeps saying it. It's similar to Saylor. I find it kind of irresponsible, but at the same time, we need these cheerleaders. We need these people out there saying, you need to get in, you're going to miss out. It can't just be people writing those articles. If you had bought Bitcoin 5 years ago, this would be what it's worth. If you'd bought 2 years ago, they need actually a face. So Tom Lee is our face. Michael Saylor is our face. Jesse, what do you think? He's got biggest rally ever. It's like a
Yeah,
movie. That's this year's tagline. So
he's the ultimate permeable. I mean, I don't know. I can't name one single person who is as permeable as Tom Lee. I've never seen him ever on any time not say that it's going to go up to it's always $1 million, $250,000, $100,000, massive. The guy's a believer. I don't know. I don't know why they put people like these on TV shows, and I don't, like you're saying, I don't know why they still like quote these people. It's like listen to James Carville or something. It's like you have like you're not right most of the. You're clearly not right most of the time. Why are you still getting these people to go on? And I still see him on CNBC. He still goes on CNBC quite a bit. So he's just one of the. He's got a funny look. He's fun to listen to in a way, and he's more decipherable than Saylor. At least you can understand what's coming out of his mouth, and without the source. And so whatever. But he's going to keep being out there. This is the way the media works, and I don't know who wrote that story specifically, but Tom Lee's fun to listen to, I guess, but he's not useful in any way, and he's going to push his company, and he wants the price to go up, and it will eventually. So I guess at some point he'll be right.
I love James Carville as a character, but he's been right once in 1992, and they filmed a movie about it, The War Room. And the thing he was right about is it's the economy, stupid, which is not that much a thing to be right about. It's a great phrase. But he's been terrible, like you say, on YouTube. Every week he's been like, Trump is going to resign in a week. Trump is done. Trump is tired. Trump doesn't care. And he's been wrong every single time. I remember the first week of the second term, he's like, this ain't going to last. This ain't going to be a thing. And he's just wrong. And again, I like him. I think he's a character. I think he's fun. But no, he's wrong. And Tom Lee, the same thing. I love that he's a cheerleader. I love that he's a permeable. I feel the same thing. Like in my heart, I'm like, of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever else should be these high, amazing coins and worth lots of money. But for them to keep putting him on TV, can't they be like, Tom Lee, you were wrong this time, and this time. Why are we putting your name in the headline this time? Like, it's not like he's the golden boy of predicting, and we could get that guy. Like, there are people out there, they could go to Polymarket or Kalishi or whatever and say, who is the number one predictor on something that can't be insidered? Like everything else is insidered. So obviously, if you know the lineup change of the baseball team, you're going to win the lineup bet because you know the deal on the inside. But for this, something that can't be insidered, and have that golden boy quant kid tell us the thing. Get us a Steve Kornacki, get us a chart guy to come in and point at the chart and say, Bitcoin and Ethereum are in an uptrend. Everyone's going to predict up, and they're going to be right, and it's going to be real easy money. Just predict up. Now, obviously, Lee, you got to give him credit for predicting up all the time, even when it goes down. But the media, you'd think, would have to like pay attention to that and like report on it, and not give him these breathless headlines about
And they get
biggest
on the
rally ever. Yeah.
like, why do you're asking him questions as if there's any get, like as if there's any, like you have no idea what he's gonna say. Like you literally know you're almost like paying him. You're paying this. This is what American news media. They basically are paying people to lie to you. They'll pay people to come on and be contributors on the show, and they know what they're going to say. And you, especially in politics, they'll hire one to say one thing and the other one to say the other thing, and then you just walk away more confused than you were in the beginning, and you've learned nothing. And it's just people making guesses, and they're being paid, and they have an agenda. So it's like every level of it is wrong and off and useless. But they keep putting them on. They keep doing it. That's how the media works. What are you
Well,
gonna
and
do?
I find financial media to be one of the worst kinds of media. I say that as we produce some right now. It's literally like day old bread. It's like old weather reports. Like if they just ran the weather report from yesterday and told you what the weather was going to be like, yesterday, and it's just the same thing where they're like, if you had invested in this, you would have done this. If you had invested in this, you would have done this. It's always old information. Even when they're trying to be cutting edge or whatever, they're never really showing you anything risky. They're never showing you where the actual bet should be. It's always a forecast of the past. They're always reading the ticker. They're never ahead of the ticker. And I don't know why people watch it. I think it's wallpaper. People just put it on the background. But at the same time, people get paid all this money. They write all these articles. They have Tom Lee on. He predicts the moon. They write about the moon. This happens for every industry, every company. And again, I agree with you. I don't know if it's paid, but maybe his company buys advertising in the break. And it's like, do you want to come on again? Buy an ad. You want to, and this kind of intermix. And again, I don't know who watches it. I think sports media is the only true media. And again, all the time they're wrong. All the time they're predicting ridiculous things. All the time they're like, let's go out on a limb here and do this and all this. And it's gotten worse lately, but it was at sometimes can be the most interesting media. And then when they actually report on the sport itself, with the exception of if it was interfered with by gamblers or something, it is the actual thing. And that's why I think that if just side note while we're here, NFL Red Zone is the greatest form of media reporting in the United States. It is the Iraq War every time. It is the CNN, what they did in the early days where they have all the cameras here everywhere and they're showing you everything. And they're reporting on all these things that are happening, totally insane football things, non-important things, but at such a granular level of detail with so many things happening at once with such a team of people covering it. And it's almost difficult to watch. You have to be autistic a little bit, but that's what the real news is like and supposed to be like. But it's so hard. It's so hard to do that for like cutting edge CNN news, to do that for cutting edge financial news. It's a lot easier to do what they do and read the ticker and talk to yesterday's winner and tell you about a company you could have invested in 6 months ago. And that's why we criticize them all the time for they put the Bitcoin price on, only when it's up. And then it goes down. They stop showing the Bitcoin price. They stop having articles about it. They stop doing it. Then it goes back up. They put it on again. They're never giving you a signal that you could have read where you could have invested at the right time. If you were paying good attention to them, being diligent, supposedly taking in information, and even just the web page version of them as well, same thing. They're not going to give you that signal. And that's why it's so strange that people watch it. The casinos, as ridiculous as they are, they do have those pictures of the people that win. They win the slot machines. There's never anybody on CNBC, and I think they sell a private program now where you can get like the insider email and all the stuff, and all the other analysts sell these programs. They never have that wall of winners. I watch CNBC every day. I watched MS or what's a Fox.
Mad Money. I'd love to see who's like a Jim Cramer disciple. Like thank God for Jim Cramer. I've been so successful because he's
Let's
helped.
check in with our Mad Money millionaires. You know, Mad Money's been making so many millionaires with our incredible predictions.
Yeah,
We tell you all
exactly.
the time, everybody, they're always writing us, Jim, thanks for making all the money on the show. No, it's this cartoon show. And I, you know, I kind of parodied him a little bit in Mad Bitcoins, not that much, but the general idea of talking about something so important like Bitcoin, like your financial future, and then to get out there like a clown and push the buttons and yell about it. And he's been doing it 20 years now, and he's doing the same shtick, and people are still buying it, and they're still like, "Oh, what's the new stock going to be?" And it's just like baseball. It's like, "What's the new team going to be?" All this stuff, but they get it wrong so much, and they don't have the same analytical background that, say, a sports reporter would have. It's very strange. All right, we're running out of time. We got one more story. We've got a brief one. Let's see. Campaigners drop bid to make Swiss National Bank hold Bitcoin. They failed to get enough signatures in Switzerland to make the bank hold Bitcoin. I kind of like this idea. It's like a Swiss bank. They'd hold Bitcoin. But at the same time, if they don't want it, don't force them into it. Why are we trying to save the Swiss banks? Maybe it's like the people of Switzerland, they felt bad for their banks. They're like, we can help you get some Bitcoin. We can petition you. We can save you. Jesse, what do you think about this Switzerland issue? It's just kind of a side note, but it's an interesting attempt to petition a bank to buy the currency. Yeah.
It was fun. I think from the article, it looked like they only needed 100,000 signatures, and they couldn't get 100,000. So that was kind of funny to me, actually, because the barrier didn't seem too high to at least get it looked at. So again, we're early. And then the second side of it is, yeah, like sort of what you said, piggybacking off that. You know, when it's time, it's time. They'll do it when it's right for them. When they're going to make money off of it, or same thing with the banks here in America. Same thing with anybody else, really. Same thing with plebs. Like you get in at the time that's right for you, I suppose, or when it makes sense to you, or when it works, you know, for what you want and what you need. So eventually, you know, it's just like what you were saying earlier with El Salvador and everything. Eventually, you know, more countries will get on board. Eventually, more banks will get on board. Eventually, more, companies like MicroStrategy, you know, doing using Bitcoin as their holding on to in lieu of cash. You know, all these little things they're happening. They're already happening. They're just It's going to be a long, slow process. As far as like people who want to do it, yeah, they probably thought it was a good idea. I'm sure it was just some Bitcoiners that were like, it was probably somebody like here in like Harlem Bitcoin. We have like 9 people show up and we're like, hey, let's petition. All right, I'm gonna send I know somebody at CoinDesk. They'll write an article about it. You know, like how many signatures you get? You know,
Oh, it's fun.
27.
We all try different things. Crypto Graffiti used to put bank logo Bitcoin stickers on ATMs. The bank is doing this. The meetup does that. Everyone's trying their own way to spread the word about Bitcoin. But yeah, it was a pretty low bar. They only needed 100,000 signatures. They say they got 50,000. So they could try harder. But I can't imagine that they let you set bank policy for 100,000 signatures. Like the bank should give all its money away. Vote for me. Sign the paper. Oh, I got 100,000 signatures, boss. It says you have to do what I want. So I don't understand the Swiss bank petition process here. I think it's kind of comical. But yeah, it was a nice attempt. Like I support the Bitcoin group here, or the guys doing this and the gals and people doing it. But yeah, it didn't work. No Swiss banks for you.
Yeah, anything that gets, I used to say significantly more than I do now, but I used to say often, like anything that gets it in the ether, anything that gets the word Bitcoin just in the mind that starts to, now it's more, now it really is kind of normalized. Like even my mom and my grandma know the word, and not just because of me. I mean, they know what the word is, but like you can still walk down the street here in New York City and there's still people that don't even know what Bitcoin is. So there's a wide range of what's going on, but it's happening, and it is happening. It's happening in a slow and steady pace. But kudos to anybody who wants to get the word out there anytime in any way possible, because normalizing it is the route. Just normalizing it in someone's mind so that they can, the next time they hear it, it's not as weird. And it's probably happened to you, Thomas. The first time my friend told me about Bitcoin, I thought it was the goofiest thing, the silliest, nonsensical thing. He called it magic internet money. I said, what do people use it for? He said, they buy things. I like, what? Oh, this is drugs and video games. Like this was, pirate. I said, how much is a Bitcoin? I think it was like $200. I was like, $200 for what? I don't need to buy video games, friend, and so that was the end of it for me. And it was like a year later, I think he mentioned it again. I was like, what? He's like, magic internet. I was like, oh yeah, that thing people buy video games and drugs. Yeah. How much is it? $500. 500? What? And then, 3 or 4 years later, then it was on CNBC. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. That's that thing that guy told me about a couple times. My buddy, actually, my friend told me about. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe. See, I had been inoculated or whatever. I had been introduced to the concept, so that I was more open to like hear maybe what it was. And that was the first time where I started down the rabbit hole. So anytime anybody pushes the word Bitcoin into the ether, I think is a good thing. Butterfly wings, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely thought it was World of Warcraft money when I first saw it. And I thought, how are you going to trick people into thinking that this has value? Like you've got a long road ahead of you. And I checked in a few years later and I saw Coinbase and BitPay. And I was like, oh, it's easy to use now. Maybe we can get people to believe this has value. And from then on, I was like, oh, yeah, it has value. It's a real thing. But unfortunately, moving on to our last issue, this is the number one way I think that people are hearing about cryptocurrency now, with the exception of late night comics making fun of it for being too hard to use, is San Antonio to post warnings at Bitcoin ATMs after rise in cryptocurrency scam. You can see the scary poster that they've put on the side of the machine. Of course, people use the front of the machine. Fake police cost a Connecticut woman $14,000 in a Bitcoin scam. They said they were the police. She went to the ATM and sent them all of her money. Georgia inmate accused of targeting Lindale woman in $13,000 Bitcoin scam. This one's interesting because they actually caught the guy and he was running the Bitcoin scam from inside the prison. So he was really working outside the box, if you will. But once again,
inside the box.
Inside the box, you're right. He was working outside the box from inside the box. But yes, it's very clear. The writing's on the wall. Cryptocurrency ATMs are going to be banned. They're going to drive these machines out of existence. This was a rare time, like the time where you can connect your bank account to Bitcoin and just cash it out, no trouble. It might not always be like this. Again, this pushes Bitcoin ATMs back into the hands of people on street corners selling loose Bitcoin and Levi jeans and whatever else they've got, all the counterfeit watches. You can get your Bitcoin that way. Jess C., what do you think about the Bitcoin ATMs? Clearly, the writing's on the wall. They're doomed. It's going to go state by state in the U.S., but in general, we thought they'd be seen as just money laundering, but they're actually money laundering and enabling scams. They're toast. I wouldn't want to be in their business.
That warning is actually, relatively reasonable. Like that's not a unreasonable response. Put a warning on the thing saying like, be aware, be careful. The other thing is like, you ever got a call from prison? The first thing they say is like, you're on a collect call, you accept a collect call from a person at such and such. And then you're like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm a cop.
And you're like monetary opportunity. I'm getting, here comes the investment of a lifetime.
Yeah. And then the guy in prison, like he's got to know, like that the idea that they're going to check her phone and where the call came from, every phone call in prison is recorded. So it's like how he thought he was going to pull this one off for that amount of money too. I mean, it's every level of this is like comedy gold. Actually, if I had 20 minutes to write a comedy routine about this, maybe next time I come on, because we do talk about crypto ATMs quite a bit on this show. So maybe I'll come in next time with a better routine. As far as like the ATMs themselves, I've said this before. I don't really know even why anybody would use one necessarily. So it doesn't like bug me out because I tried to do it in New York. I've mentioned this, and I had to put in my passport. So it was like there was no anonymity. Like it was beyond intrusive. So I didn't see any use in it, especially when you can now, especially just everybody has a phone. You can do it on your phone, like really easy, not even using Coinbase. I mean, you just have Cash App or something like that. Or now actually in New York, we have Strike finally. So, you know, um, that said, if I don't think it's the ATM's fault it's there, you know. And by the way, they're putting in cash so to trade for the Bitcoin. So it's like you're going. I guess you're going to the bank and you took $13,000 out in cash. You're gonna. I mean, where'd you get 13 in cash to put
Is it
into the ATM?
that seems like that's the bank's fault,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You should
So
shut down all the ATMs at the bank.
exactly. So like if logic dictates like what the solution is, but like so many things, you once you get past the first level of logic, the whole everything falls apart and no one's interested anymore. So, you know, as far as like basic freedoms or whatever else, libertarianism or just capitalism or whatever, like let ATMs be what they are. If you want to slap a warning on it, that's very reasonable. And if you know, maybe there'll be some group that starts making ads, you know, about like don't put $10,000 in cash into an ATM. You know, in case you didn't know that, here you go. You know, but
Well, that's the real problem, and that's the problem that's so hard to fix is the financial literacy for old people and for human beings in general. The second story, like you say, each story is funny in its own way. The lady sends the money to the police. When's the last time that you got a bill directly from the police for any situation? Never, never. Like, I mean, you support the charities or whatever, but you never, ever send money directly to the police in the United States. In other countries, who knows? You're paying bribes all over the place, but you know you're paying a bribe, right? You know it's like an illegal bribe to the police, not part of the normal thing. But again, these people, the scammers are so good at what they're doing. We got to start there. All of the different NLP techniques, all of the keeping them on the line, keeping them on there. You're like, what do you mean they talked to the woman for 6 hours? Like this is standard in the scamming business. They have nothing to do in India, no disrespect, any other country or whatever, but they're bored and they are scamming the heck out of financially illiterate and bored old people who are at home. And this is going to keep happening. I agree. The Bitcoin ATMs, people, it's not their fault. They're running legitimate business. They probably want these signs. I know that Martine's going to write in the chat, oh, you know, General Bytes holds the funds, or we don't allow them to send, or we have a reversal program. They can come in maybe within the week, something like that. That's a good idea. These are all good steps. But Jess, you're right. They're just going to point at the machine. That's the machine that did it. That's the one. And it's not a logical thing. We have this law in California, you can't use your cell phone at the gas pumps. You know how many times a cell phone has ever lit gasoline on fire in laboratory or any other conditions? Zero. 0.000% times. Never happened. But we have a law saying you can't do it. And so many people know this law. If you end up using your phone near a gas tank, somebody might come over to you and say, hey, don't do that. It could explode, even though it's never, ever happened. So unfortunately, these Bitcoin ATMs explode on everyone all the time.
a
They're
law about
taking all these people's money. So yeah,
use a
explosions are real.
gas station.
And it's so funny too that just the you know, it's sad, it's funny, it's pathos, all those things. But if you look at this picture with the poster in it, you can see in the background all the cups for the Cokes and the lids and stuff. And on the left hand side, there's a bunch of Aquafina water bottles, and you just have to think how sad and but kind of beautiful and kind of like a whole big thing. People lost their like life savings right here next to the cups. They're like, I'm gonna go pay off the IRS, or I'm gonna get a kidnapping victim back, or I'm gonna, you know, pay the money to the police. And they lost their fortune by the cups.
You know, you can only take, I think the max I've ever seen is maybe 400 out of an ATM, but usually, especially at a grocery store, it's like 200. I mean, just like, because sorry, I just don't see a reason to put more than say 1,000. Even if you did, maybe they did multiple transactions. You know, maybe they got her to do that.
Sadly and famously, Philip Seymour Hoffman, the last film that he ever made is him at the ATM getting money, waiting, going back, getting money again, getting money, waiting, going back. And then sadly, he goes off and buys an overdose of heroin with that money. So again, they put all these limits on people. But if people really want that thing, they're going to use the ATM 10 times. They're going to use it. They're going to drive all over town. They're going to come back day to day. I mean, they'll keep them on the phone, I don't know, as long as they can for these scams. But again, I don't think, even as Bitcoiners here and financial freedom and all the things, I don't think, I agree with you, Jess. We're not upset that they're putting a poster on the machine. We're not upset about warning labels or limits or even trying to slow down the currency if they have to. But we do think that this is going to come to an inevitable ban. They've already banned it in several states. I think we're drifting that direction. So sadly, I think that we're going to be telling more stories of people losing their life's fortunes next to the chips and next to the cups, and less stories about people making their life fortunes, because that's kind of what these machines are supposed to be about. People could get a chance to try Bitcoin, a chance to buy some Bitcoin and then buy something online for people that didn't have credit cards and stuff like that. And at its highest and most noble purchase, someone comes in with $300 and keeps it for 10 years and it's worth more money and they're able to help their family in the future. That's what these were for. I don't know that they're going to believe that if we go in and make our little speech and then they say, well, you scammed Granny out of 10 grand and you scammed Johnny out of 10 grand and you scammed 50 other Grammys. I think we're going to lose that argument. But I think we'll try to make that argument first.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're out of time. So let's move on to predictions or story of the week. Jesse, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Okay. So my prediction, and again, I I think predictions are funny because you have basically 50-50 chance of being correct. But we have been on a 4-year cycle. It seems kind of crazy. I don't know how it happens, really. Why? It's just there's too many things that happen in the world for it to happen now. What's going on 4 times in a row, and if you lay the last cycle over this cycle, they look basically the same. So I don't know what's going to happen, if the Clarity Act's going to make it and not make it, if it passes and then becomes a sell the news event, if there's going to be some big October surprise or some kind of catastrophe that happens at the end of the year. It's a general stock, thing. But so I'm just going to say, it seems like we're still on a 4-year cycle, even though we're pumping right now. I hope it would be I would love it if we just broke it and it was more random, actually. But I don't know. So my prediction is going to be going 6 months. We can check the AI that we're still on a 4-year cycle, and they're probably going to it's going to be lower than it is right now in December. Let's put it that way. And then it'll start the inevitable slog back up to our next, little peak. So that's my little story of the week, or prediction of the week.
Nice. I think we're entirely too much moved by news and other events, and that larger things like the 4-year cycle are still out there. And just in general, looking at it from a larger and a more pulled back view, I think is where to be. I don't have that much this week. I want again to give a shout out to For All Mankind. I love this show. It's on Apple TV or wherever you download your videos. It's about an alternate future where the United States didn't make it to the moon first, the Soviets did. And then we have a race to build moon bases. The show has been going on for quite a while now, so they're building Mars bases. It's an incredible episode this week with a lot of emotions on both sides and a lot of exploration of an idea that I think was also covered in the TV show The Expanse and the book there and so forth, about what do you do with colonists on Mars, colonists on the moon, colonists on the belts, and how connected they are to Earth and whether they should have freedom. And I love that show. Jesse, are you watching For All Mankind?
No, I've never seen that show, but now you've piqued my interest. I've taken your advice on a few things. I read Project Hail Mary after you suggested it. I read the German one that you suggested a couple years ago.
I love Quality Land.
Yeah, that was a great one too. So so I'll check this one out too. I don't have Apple TV right now, but I'll get it. So yeah,
it's fantastic, and it's so historically accurate. They do all the little like alternate history things that you like. Like, for example, it's not a spoiler, but in this universe, John Lennon's alive. So there's always these little headlines where it's like John Lennon attends Peace Summit, John Lennon, working to do this. And in the same way, Ted Kennedy is not disgraced. So it's always, Senator and perhaps President Ted Kennedy and things like this. And it's just these little minor breadcrumbs. But at the same time, they have Michael Jordan, they have Tiger Woods, they show that the big events are the same in these worlds. And it's written or produced by Ronald D. Moore, who wrote Battlestar Galactica and Deep Space Nine.
I
And
love
he's kind of, yeah, he's pretty much like one of the greatest like sci-fi, board director type people, and they just have a great crew and great writers, and it's so realistic looking, and especially now to look back, the early episodes are like, Mission Command in Houston, and they have the old room and all the old tech, and then to see the new episodes where it's kind of futuristic, and they've gone on a slightly different tech path, like they have these kind of not a spoiler, but they have these kind of pudgy iPhones that look like an iPod with a phone in it. So it still has a hard drive, but it's a phone, and they all have them. So it's that's the way their tech went. And they get iPhones and they get video calling a lot faster because their tech stack builds up, because they're having this race to build the moon base and this race to build the Mars base. And it's similar to West Wing during the dark days of the W. Bush administration, when you could imagine that the president was this intelligent guy having discussions with his advisors and pushing back and really trying to help people and not just starting random crazy wars. Oh, we've come so far. You could watch this show during now and pretend that we're interested in science and that we're focused on science and that we're working together to solve problems, which was always what I loved about Star Trek Voyager, is that every episode they're stuck, they're trying to get home, and they work together to solve problems. And that's also what's great about The Martian. And I did finally get to see the movie for Project Hail Mary. I liked it. I think they took a lot of the science out. I think they simplified it a lot, and they had a lot of great visuals that like made it more of a general movie. Whereas The Martian, I think, is a little harder to watch because of the science. And I would have wanted Project Hail Mary to be a little harder to watch because of the science. There's a couple of things that they don't talk enough about: the food problems at the end, where he makes the decision to save them and that he was basically going to starve to death. They just leave that out. And then they don't talk enough about why the one character, the alien, had extra fuel. And I think this is really important and interesting from science. And I'm probably going to screw it up when I try to explain it. But with the way the speed of light and relativity worked, as they go faster, they use less time. So they ended up having a ton of extra fuel and food on the alien ship because they didn't know about relativity. And that's also why they had that radiation event that caused their crew to die as well. So, but
I watched a bunch of YouTube videos after that, because I was like, okay, I really needed to get my head around why time slows down as you get closer to the speed of light. And I actually had to watch several videos for it to kind of start to make sense a little bit. It's so mind-boggling. It's almost hard to make sense. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. I thought the directing the way the camera work was a little too much handheld for me, for like a science fiction-y kind of thing, and they skipped a lot of the science behind it. Also, in my mind, I'd call it astrophagy, more like the way you would say it, like a Greek god or something. But they called it astrophage. When you read it, I don't know what you called it, but my wife did love the movie, though. She got very emotional about it, so she liked it a lot. And
I think I called it astrophage because it has kind of a disease sound to it, phage, like something's wrong with the star. I thought that's where they nailed it. They nailed the emotional aspects. I think that you really root with Grace. I don't think they focused very much on his amnesia, him not knowing who he was. The book was much more of like, I'm in a spaceship, I'm freaking out. But it's hard to show that. But I thought they connected us really well to Grace and to Rocky, and that you're like rooting for them to succeed and you're happy, and the ending happens and stuff. But at the same time, yeah, it was kind of a shortcut, although still kind of a spoiler here. Probably you've read the book and the film at this point, but I enjoy the way the book and the film, you never really doubt the alien sincerity. Like there's a couple of jump scares, because it's a weird alien and there's some dark jump scares. But other than that, it's not a horror film where you're like, when is the alien going to betray him? When is the evil plan? They're going to lay eggs in his head or whatever. None of that. They're two scientists. And many of the YouTubes, I watch some of those too, they like get mad at the film because Rocky is a legit engineer. and he's shown as kind of like a silly character because he's a an animatronic, or he's a puppet, or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that. But they're two scientists solving a problem, and that's what I think the Andy Weir books are best at. And his other one, Artemis, that they're making next, these same guys, not scientists, not solving a problem, not a great book, but
Okay.
they're gonna make it into a movie anyway. So you might want to read it. I mean, it's kind of a cool story of like this girl on the moon, but I just don't like her character. I think and there's similar things kind of happening now in For All Mankind, where at a certain point you're in space so much that you have these like flippant people who work and live in space, but at the same time everyone's in an airlock, everyone's in an instant disaster, and for people to forget this and to start robbing and stealing and doing these things and blowing up airlocks and whatever, it just seems so incredibly unsafe to the whole moon base and the whole idea of like humans living on another planet, that I have a stretch where I can't get to that. And there's a little bit of that in For All Mankind, where it's like they're sneaking stuff around and they're smuggling and they're cheating and they're doing whatever, and it's like that endangers the whole mission. But I guess that humans are the kind of people that would do those things, and that's what the writers are telling us. So, but
I'll just throw out one last little show, which is it's called Common Side Effects. It's actually an animated show it's Mike Judge. It's on Adult Swim. Really, really great, interesting about science and healthcare in America and the industry. Definitely, I would, if you're into those kind of shows, you would probably like it, Thomas, and anybody watching the show might like it. It's pretty interesting, and it's kind of funny, but it's also a little bit more dramatic, but it's really interesting.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I'd like to check that out. I love Mike Judge. The other one that sounds kind of similar to that I'm interested in is the United States According to Larry, or something like that. And it's Curb Your Enthusiasm's Larry David, and President Obama's involved somehow, and they're going to retell history through Larry David's eyes.
Oh boy.
So that could be great, but I haven't seen it yet. Just one more thing before we end the show. We have to say happy birthday to Curio Cards. Today is Saturday, May 9th, 2026, and it was back on May 9th in 2027, 9 years ago today, that the first art show NFTs launched on Ethereum. So happy anniversary to Curio Cards. You're 6 weeks older than Crypto Punks, the first live mint on Ethereum, the blueprint for digital collectibles, supporting artists since 2017, and here to continue the NFT legacy. Shout out to my NFT project, Curio Cards, which Travis and Rhett and I launched in 2017. I'd like to talk more about it, but I feel I have on many other shows, and I'm running out of steam for talking on this show. But thanks again for everybody for joining us, giving us a thumbs up and a comment down below. I know a lot of you are going to be, I didn't know the show was on. I didn't know you were doing a makeup. But again, we had the technical problem yesterday. Hopefully today the internet has been good. Again, I ran a blue cable all the way across the house. It looks terrible, but it works so good. Nothing is like a direct connection into the internet. So I suggest that for everybody. But that's about it. And shout out to the AI for doing all the work, transcribing all those episodes, bringing in all those quotes. It was really fun. I used to think about doing these things. I'd be like, oh, I wish I could get every reference that we had of Western Union. And now I can just do these things. So that's a really great thing, having the transcripts, having the database, having that ability, and then saying, produce the report.
No, I was actually going to give you a compliment too about those Curio Cards, because you made those logos back when you actually had to do it in Photoshop or Illustrator or something. Like you didn't, now you just tell AI to do it, but back then you actually had to make them. So, and they're pretty
funny. They're saying that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be this kind of beautiful thing of like the last video game that humans built themselves. Everything about 6 has been human built and all these things, and it's going to be so incredible. And you know that every new version, everything after that is going to be AI involved, AI configured, AI shortcuts, all of these things. So it's really interesting to see humans kind of produce their last masterpieces. And in that way, so are Curio Cards, a masterpiece. You can buy them today on OpenSea, and they're well down. You can get some for like a couple $100. So it's pretty cool. There's only 30,000 or so curio cards, and that's it. That's all they'll ever be. So very scarce, very collectible.
Nice.
But thanks so much, Jess, for being on the show. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe down below. We're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.